This video is for 3.4, Algebra 2. We're going to be looking at solving systems of equations now with 3 variables rather than 2. We already talked about when I have a system of equations, if however many variables, in the cases that we were doing before, if I had 2 variables, 2 unknowns, I needed 2 equations. So now that I have 3 variables, I'm going to need 3 equations. So we have the ultimate system going on here. So we're going to call our variables x, y, and z. This would be like looking at the 3D axis. So we have the x, y axis and now z to make our picture three-dimensional. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are basically going to do 2 separate elimination systems and then do it again. So you're going to have to do this 3 times all together. So let me work us through the first couple, and then at the end you'll have a couple to work on yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the first 2 equations. I'm just going to rewrite them. And I'm going to choose one of the variables to eliminate. I'm going to do x just because it's easy in this case. And I'm going to do that using the methods that we've done before, whether I'm going to use this elimination, and that's going to be either I have to multiply one or both equations. Okay, so in this case I see that I just have to multiply the bottom one by 2. So now what I have is 4x plus 2y plus 3z equals 1. I didn't do anything to that one. Now I'm going to multiply the 2 in the bottom through everything. So that's going to give me 4x minus 6y plus 10z equals negative 28. So from here, I'm going to again decide whether I add or subtract to get the x's to cancel out. I see if I subtract them, 4x minus 4x will make them, the x's cancel. So then I got to subtract the rest of them. So I've got 2y minus negative 6y, so that's like adding, will give me a positive 8y. And 3z minus 10z is going to give me 7z. And 1 minus negative 28 will give me 29. So notice I don't get a y equals 5. I get an equation with 2 variables. So I'm going to do this again, but with the second and third equations. So I'm going to rewrite those. 2x minus 3y plus 5z equals negative 14. And 6x minus y plus 4z equals negative 1. And again, I'm going to see if I need to multiply one or both. And since I eliminated x in the first one, I'm going to eliminate x again. I see that I can just multiply the top one by 3. So that gives me 6x minus 9y plus 15z equals negative 14 times 3 is negative 42. So now I can, between these two, subtract them. So the x's cancel. I get negative 1y minus negative 9 gives me 8. 4 minus 15 is negative 11. And 1 minus negative 42 gives me positive 41. So I'm going to take these 2 equations, notice both of them are in terms of y and z, and I'm going to do a system yet again for a third time. Now if I have to, I would multiply one or both equations to get a variable to cancel out. But I notice the y's are already the same, so if I just subtract the equations as they are, the y's will cancel. So y's cancel, and I get negative 7 minus a negative 11 gives me 4z, and 29 minus 41 gives me negative 12. So when I divide the 4 over, I finally get down to z equals negative 3. So now I can plug that back into one of the 2 equations that I used. 8y minus 7 times negative 3 equals 29. So that's 8y plus 21 equals 29. Subtract the 21 over. So I have 8y equals 8. So I get y equals 1. I'm almost there. So now I need to go back to one of the original equations. I'm just going to choose the top one because it's there. It's easy. Okay, so I have 4x plus 2 times 1 plus 3 times negative 3 has to equal 1. So that's 4x plus 2 minus 9, so that's going to be 4x plus 7 altogether. Or that should be minus 7, sorry. Negative 9 plus 2. And that's going to give me 8, so x equals 2. So my answer I write in x, comma, y, comma, z. So for this one it's 2, comma, 1, comma, negative 3. All right, I'm going to do a couple more. Let's do the additional example 1. We're going to ignore this one for now because I have it on the next page. All right, so again, you're going to do first elimination between the top two. So I'm going to rewrite them. Okay, so I see that I can multiply the top one again by 2 to eliminate the x's. So that's going to give me 6x plus 2y minus 4z equals 24. So if I subtract these two equations, the x's will cancel, and I get negative 2 minus 2, so that gives me negative 4y. Z minus negative 4z gives me plus 5z. And 15 minus 24 is negative 9. So there's my first one. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the second and the third equations. And I see that I can multiply the bottom one by 6 to get the x's again to cancel out. So I'm just going to rewrite the top one, 6x minus 2y plus z equals 15. And then when I multiply through, I get 6x plus 24y plus 18z equals 24. So when I subtract them, x's cancel. I get negative 2 minus 24, so that's negative 26y. Z minus 18 gives me minus 19z. No, minus 17, excuse me, if I could add. And then 15 minus 24, negative 9. So now I've got my two equations. I've got negative 4y plus 5z equals negative 9. And I've got negative 26y minus 17z equals negative 9. So now in this case, I'm going to have to multiply both of them because I can't just do one. So I'm going to multiply this one by the 26 and this one by the 4, or I guess negative. All right, so when I do that, I've got 26 times 4, so that gives me 104y minus 5 times 26. That's going to be negative, so minus 130z. 26 times 9 equals 234. For the second one, I get 104y again, plus 17 times 4 is 68, and 36. So I see that if I subtract these two equations, I get negative 130 minus 68 gives me negative 198z. And 234 minus 36 gives me a positive 198. So z is equal to negative 1. Plugging that back in, I get negative 4y plus 5 times negative 1. So that's negative 4y minus 5. So if I add that over, I get y equals 1. Almost there. So if I plug these both back into the original, one of the original equations, maybe I use this top one. I'm going to get 3x plus 1 for y minus 2 times negative 1 has to equal 12. So I get 3x plus 1 plus 2. So that's 3x plus 3 is equal to 12. So 3x is equal to 9. X equals 3. So my solution is 3, 1, negative 1. I want to do one more. Let's look at example 2. So again, going to use the first two equations. Oops, that's the last one. We'll try again. So I see I can multiply the top one by 4 to get the x's to cancel out. So that's going to give me 4x plus 4y plus 4z is equal to 12. And when I subtract them, I'm going to get 0 on this side and negative 5 on this side. Since this is not true, that means there is no solution. So for next class, I want you to flip it over to the last page where it says extra practice, and I want you to do number 1 only. We will do the other two equations, example 3 and number 2 from that last page together in class next time. So I just want you to do number 1 on the last page that says extra practice.